who won the popular vote in the 2020 election?
You're right, Senator. I have been asked that by one of your colleagues already, and as I explained, the popular vote is not part of the Article 2 or the 12th Amendment. There's an electoral college that meets in December of an election year for president, and that gathers to cast the electoral votes.
Who won the 2020 election?
The person who became president in January 2021 was when Congress certified.
In other words, you're not going to answer. You're going to give me the same rote, rehearsed answer, which frankly makes you look ridiculous, if not pathetic.
A judicial nominee was asked one basic question. Who won the 2020 election? And instead of giving a straight answer, the hearing turned into absolute political chaos. Richard Blumenthal repeatedly presses the nominee to acknowledge simple facts about the election on January 6, but every response sounds scripted, cautious, and carefully designed to avoid upsetting Donald Trump. That's when Blumenthal explodes, accusing the nominee of lacking the courage to tell the truth. And the room got very uncomfortable after that.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Smith, you signed an amicus brief in December of 2020 supporting an effort to dispute the outcome of the 2020 presidential election. I've been asking all of the nominees about who won the 2020 election. As you may know, I understand you may have been asked already this morning. I want to hear it for myself. Who won the popular vote in the 2020 election?
You're right, Senator. I have been asked that by one of your colleagues already, and as I explained, the popular vote is not part of the Article 2 or the 12th Amendment. There's an electoral college that meets in December of an election year for president, and that gathers to cast the electoral votes.
Who won the 2020 election?
The person who became president in January 2021 was when Congress certified.
In other words, you're not going to answer. You're going to give me the same rote, rehearsed answer, which frankly makes you look ridiculous, if not pathetic. And I'll ask you another question, give you an opportunity maybe to be more forthcoming to this committee. Who won the popular vote in the 2020 election?
As I was just saying, the popular vote is not something that's contemplated by the Constitution.
I'm asking you who won it. As a member of the Court of Appeals, you are responsible for looking to the facts as well as the law. Granted, facts found by the trial court. And I'm asking you to look at the facts here and give me a straight answer. Who won the popular vote in the 2020 election?
In January 2021 was when Congress counted the electoral college votes and certified Joe Biden as the president.
So you're not going to answer my question. You know, I would have thought, here you are as a nominee. I recognize the anxiety that someone in your position may feel, the fear that the President of the United States may be watching. But you're in a pretty secure position. As a member of the court with lifetime tenure, you're in an indisputably secure position. If you don't have the courage now to state your independent judgment on a clear factual issue, I don't know how the United States Senate can confirm you as a member of one of the most powerful courts in the country. Let me ask you finally, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
As I said a moment ago, Senator, when Congress counted the electoral college votes in January 2021, Joe Biden was certified as president.
Let's try another topic. Was the United States Capitol attacked on January 6th, 2021?
I want to be very careful on the language that I use, Senator, because there are cases that have been filed in the Eighth Circuit where the characterization of that day has been central to the case. And as a judicial nominee, I don't want to prejudge any of those cases that might come before me. I believe
Have you seen video footage of that attack?
I've seen the news reports from that day, yes,
And
Senator.
what did you see in those videos?
I think what the Supreme Court in the 3 cases that they have handled that have issues related to that day, the Trump versus Anderson case out of Colorado, the Trump versus United States case that I was privileged to handle.
Did you see people punching Capitol police officers? They're the ones outside this hearing room protecting us. Did you see the violent attackers punching, kicking, beating Capitol police officers?
And I want to be very clear that I condemn violence on that day and every day, and I'm very grateful for the men and women of law enforcement.
And you
who
saw
protect
them
us.
attacked on that day, did you not?
I believe the language that the Supreme Court has used in the 3 cases that I just mentioned is that there was a breach of the Capitol.
Did you see people throwing things at those officers and at the Capitol?
Senator, as I said, I condemn all the violence that occurred on that day and that has occurred on other days as well.
Would you agree with me that what happened on that day was a violent mob attacking the Capitol? You've seen the videos.
I have seen the videos, yes, Senator.
You would agree.
I will say what I've said several times now, that I condemn the violence, and I would use the language of the Supreme Court in those 3 cases, the Trump versus United
I really regret that you don't have the grit to stand up and speak out on an issue of such fundamental importance, and that you are, in effect, intimidated by the remote prospect that the President of the United States may take umbrage and withdraw your nomination. If you don't have the courage to tell this committee the truth, you don't deserve to be on the bench. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator.
What made this exchange so explosive wasn't just the topic, it was the nominee's refusal to give direct answers to basic factual questions. Richard Blumenthal kept asking straightforward questions. Who won the 2020 election? Was January 6th a violent attack on the Capitol? Did police officers get assaulted? And instead of clear answers, the nominee repeatedly fell back on legal language, Supreme Court references, and procedural explanations. Now, from a legal perspective, judicial nominees often try to avoid comments that could affect future cases. But Blumenthal's argument was that this went beyond judicial caution. To him, it looked like political fear. Fear of saying anything that might anger Donald Trump or jeopardize the nomination. That's why the ending became so personal. Blumenthal basically argued that if a judge can't publicly acknowledge obvious facts during a Senate confirmation hearing, then how can Americans trust that judge to act independently on the bench? That's the deeper issue underneath this entire clash: judicial restraint, or political intimidation. Subscribe for more explosive political hearing breakdowns and courtroom confrontations. Like the video, share it, and drop your opinion in the comments. Was the nominee being appropriately careful as a future judge, or avoiding the truth?